The stars burned cold and distant, silent witnesses to the chaos brewing at the edge of the Orion Arm. For months, whispers had spread across the interstellar lanes, rumors of a vessel that tore through fleets like paper, leaving only drifting wreckage and frightened survivors to tell the tale. They called it a ghost ship, a myth, a fabrication of war propaganda. But the Deathworld Alliance knew better. Admiral Kale stood alone on the command deck of the DWS Talon's Wrath, staring out at the void as if he could see the phantom ship that had haunted his people's dreams. The Alliance had been forged by the galaxy's most brutal, most unforgiving worlds, planets where every day was a battle to survive toxic storms, predatory megafauna, or molten seas. The Alliance prided itself on one thing: nothing scared them. But the reports were undeniable. An entire Haskari war clan had been annihilated near the Beta Crucis corridor. The fearsome Vox symbiont legions, creatures that had once driven entire species to extinction, had been silenced in a single engagement. Even the Kithorian dreadnought line, considered invincible for 1,000 years, had been found gutted and lifeless, as if something had chewed through hull and soul alike. Status? Kale asked, his voice low, almost reverent. Gravimetric sensors are quiet. No warp signatures in range, replied First Officer Jara, her claws tapping nervously on the tactical console. For a Vok, that was as close to panic as one could get. But Admiral, this ship does not obey the laws of war as we know them. Every time we think we have it cornered, it vanishes. It moves like it knows our minds. Kale turned, the cold light of the stars painting sharp lines across his scarred face. Then we stop thinking like prey. Across the fleet, more than 200 warships drifted in perfect silence, hidden deep within the gravity well of a dead star system. Each vessel belonged to a species bred in cruelty, Deathworlders all. Their ships were not sleek or beautiful like those of the core worlds. They were armored beasts of steel and plasma, bristling with weapons that could shatter moons. This would be their trap. A shiver rippled through the command deck as sensors picked up a faint anomaly, a warp ripple, like a shadow moving just beyond sight. "It's here," Jara hissed. Kale didn't flinch. "All ships, hold positions. Wait for my mark." Silence fell like a blade. Then, out of the void, it came. The ghost ship emerged from faster-than-light transit with a slow, deliberate grace. It was smaller than most of the Alliance dreadnoughts, but its presence was wrong. Its hull reflected no light, as if it drank in the very glow of the stars. Its silhouette shifted subtly, as if the ship itself was alive and watching them. And then it spoke. A transmission cut across every channel, in every language, simultaneously. The voice was deep, mechanical, and yet disturbingly human. "We are the Oblivion Spear. You have chosen to gather. You have chosen death." Kale's lips curled into a snarl. "Battle stations. Fire on my command." The trap was sprung. The first salvo tore through the void, hundreds of missiles, plasma bolts, and kinetic slugs screaming toward the lone vessel. Space itself seemed to ignite as a storm of fire engulfed the black ship. For a moment, it looked as though the trap had worked. Then the fire cleared. The Oblivion Spear was untouched. Not a scratch marred its surface. And then it moved. What happened next would be spoken of in hushed tones for centuries. The black ship accelerated with impossible speed, cutting through the Alliance formation like a scalpel. Its weapons were unlike anything the Alliance had ever seen, silent, invisible beams that sliced through battleships as though they were made of vapor. Entire cruisers were cored in seconds, their reactors going dark before anyone could scream. Kale gripped the command rail, his teeth bared. "Form Killbox Delta. Force it into crossfire." The fleet obeyed, deadly precision bringing hundreds of ships into overlapping arcs of fire. For a heartbeat, the spear was caught, bombarded by every weapon in range. The stars themselves seemed to go white with the fury of the assault. When the light faded, the ship was damaged. Its hull shimmered with strange fractures, light bleeding from its wounds like the glow of a dying star. Kale's heart surged. They could kill it. But then something happened that froze every soul in the system. The ship changed. Its fractured hull reknit before their eyes, metal flowing like liquid. Its weapons flared to life with renewed fury, carving through the Alliance ranks with surgical precision. "This is not a ship," Jara whispered. "It's a predator." Kale slammed his fist on the console. "Then we become the hunters. Signal the fleet, no retreat. We finish this here, or we die trying." But even as the order went out, Kale felt the creeping edge of something worse, an instinct no Deathworlder liked to admit. For the first time in his life, Admiral Kale felt fear. And deep within the dark between stars, something else had begun to notice. The carnage, the destruction, the gravitational ripples, this battle was no longer hidden. The wider galaxy was watching. And soon, they would intervene. The void burned. The Deathworld Alliance fleet was in shambles, but not broken. Wreckage spun like frozen screams, the bodies of warriors drifting among the stars. And still, the Oblivion spear prowled through the battlefield, as calm and merciless as a predator circling wounded prey. Admiral Kale stood on the cracked and smoking bridge of the Talon's Wrath, every nerve screaming at him to order retreat, but there was nowhere left to run. This was their proving ground. "Status of our heavy cruisers," he growled, smoke and blood curling in the air. Jara's mandibles clicked as she scanned the readouts. "Half are gone. The rest are scattered. Our missile reserves are nearly depleted." She turned to him, her eyes hard. "Admiral, if we stay here, we will be extinct by dawn cycle." Kale's jaw tightened. He had sworn an oath that Deathworlders would never kneel to any threat, no matter how terrible. But the spear was no simple threat. "Send a galaxy-wide priority signal," Kale said at last. "Mark it Omega Black. Call every allied fleet, every mercenary house, every species that dares call itself a warrior culture. If we fall here, there will be no one left to stand against that thing." The comm officer hesitated only a fraction before obeying. The signal blazed out across hyperspace, a desperate cry that tore through every listening post in 100 light-years. For hours, Kale and his surviving fleet fought on, using every trick their worlds had taught them. Gravity well mines, EMP bursts, kamikaze drones, anything to slow the spear's relentless slaughter. And still it came, unstoppable, every countermeasure answered with a new horror. But then, hyperspace ripped open. One, then two, then a dozen new warp signatures bloomed across the system. Ships poured into the battle space, core world fleets, mercenary dreadnoughts, scavenger gunships, even a few rogue pirate flotillas answering the call. The galaxy had arrived. "Admiral Kale," a voice crackled over comms, deep, cold, unmistakably human. "This is Commander Rin of the Terran Interdiction Force. Your signal reached Sol. We are here to assist." Kale felt a flicker of grim satisfaction. "Then welcome to the hunt, human. I hope you brought something that can bleed this monster." Rin's reply was calm, almost too calm. "We didn't bring something, Admiral. We brought everything." On cue, the Terran fleet moved into formation, sleek, predatory warships gleaming in the starlight. They were not as large as the Alliance dreadnoughts, but there was something terrifyingly precise about their movements, something surgical. Kale didn't have long to admire them before the next wave began. The spear had noticed the reinforcements. It shifted its trajectory, targeting the newcomers with sudden, brutal intent. "Hold formation," Kale barked. "Let them draw its fire, we strike together." The void erupted into war. The combined fleets lit up the darkness, a storm of plasma and railgun slugs turning the battlefield into a supernova of fury. For the first time since the battle began, the spear faltered, its defenses straining under the weight of so many enemies. But it learned. Kale watched in disbelief as the ship adapted mid-battle, its hull shedding damaged plating, new weapon ports forming where none had existed. It was rewriting itself in real time, evolving under fire. "Admiral," Jara whispered, "what if it can't be killed?" Kale didn't answer. He couldn't. On the Terran command channel, Commander Rin's voice cut in, sharp and commanding. "Alliance fleet, brace for shockwave. We're deploying Erebus Protocol." Kale frowned. "Explain." "You don't want me to explain," Rin said flatly. "Just survive." Then the human fleet did something Kale had never seen. Half the Terran ship split off, encircling the spear in a perfect sphere. They emitted some kind of field, warping space itself, bending light and gravity until the stars around them bled into darkness. Kale's sensors screamed warnings of mass energy fluctuations far beyond safe levels. "Are they trying to create a singularity?" Jara hissed. Kale's stomach turned. "No. They're trying to cage it." The spear struck back with desperate fury, tearing through two Terran cruisers like they were made of paper. But the formation held. The field collapsed inward, and for a moment, Kale saw the impossible. The spear was caught. It thrashed, its hull writhing like a living thing, black energy lashing out in every direction. Space around it distorted violently, shattering asteroids into dust. But it could not escape. "Now!" Kale roared. "All ships, fire everything." The sky became pure light. Every railgun slug, every missile, every plasma torpedo converged on the trapped ship. The shockwave washed over Kale's vessel, tearing panels from the hull, rattling every bone in his body. When the light cleared, silence fell. The Oblivion spear hung motionless, half its hull torn away, its strange living metal twitching and flickering like a dying nerve. And then it laughed. The sound came across every channel, a hollow, metallic chuckle that froze Kale's blood. "You think this is over. You think you have won. But this was never my war." The ship pulsed with a final surge of energy, so violent it threw half the fleet off course, then vanished in a burst of FTL so powerful it left hyperspace scars visible to the naked eye. Silence fell across the graveyard of ships. Kale gripped the railing, his breathing ragged. "We wounded it," he said at last. Commander Rin's voice was grim. "You don't understand. We didn't just wound it. We woke it up. Whatever that ship truly is, it's calling for reinforcements." Kale turned, eyes narrowing. "Then we prepare. The next battle will not be fought alone." Far away, deep in the black between galaxies, something ancient stirred. Something heard the spear's call, and answered. The war was no longer between one ship and the Deathworld Alliance. Now, the galaxy itself was about to burn. The galaxy had not seen such a mobilization in 1,000 years. From the core to the rim, from the civilized worlds to the Deathworlds, ships gathered in orbit of Kever Prime, the chosen staging ground. The system was thick with steel and firepower, thousands of warships from hundreds of species, their hulls reflecting the cold light of the sun like a forest of blades. Admiral Kale stood on the observation deck, watching the greatest armada ever assembled form ranks. This was more than survival now, this was retribution. "Status of our reinforcements?" Kale asked. Jara's mandibles clicked in grim satisfaction. "Every Deathworld fleet has answered the call. Even the Jurithi swarms have pledged their carriers. The Terrans are coordinating strike protocols with the core navies. For once, Admiral, the galaxy is united." Kale let the words sink in. Never in his lifetime had the Deathworlders trusted the core species enough to fight alongside them. But the spear had forced their hand. "Then we take the war to it," Kale said. "No more waiting for the monster to choose its battlefield. We end this on our terms." The armada launched. Thousands of warp drives tore open reality, spitting the combined fleet into the cold void near the Perseus expanse, where the last hyperspace trace of the Oblivion Spear had been detected. But they weren't the only ones there. As soon as they arrived, sensors lit up like suns, multiple contacts, massive energy signatures flaring to life. At first, the fleet thought they had found the spear. Then they realized what they were seeing. An entire fleet of ships, each one sharing that same living, shadow-drinking hull design, waited for them. Hundreds of spears, silent and still, arrayed like predators ready to strike. Kale's stomach turned to ice. "They're not just a weapon," Jara whispered. "They're a civilization." Across the fleet, tension built like a storm. Then the comm channels erupted. "We are the Herald. Your resistance was impressive. But you stand in the path of the cleansing." Commander Rin's voice cut through the static, sharp as a blade. "All fleets, initiate unity formation. Hold your fire until they commit." The galaxy held its breath. Then the first spear moved. The sky tore apart. The Herald fleet advanced with impossible precision, their weapons igniting in a storm of annihilation. Beams of black energy cut across the void, ripping apart cruisers in an instant. The Allied fleet answered with everything it had: plasma, railguns, fusion warheads, gravitic torpedoes, turning the void into a sea of fire. Kale's command ship shuddered under the shockwave as the first line of destroyers vanished in a flash of plasma. "Hold the line," he roared, forcing his voice to cut through the chaos. The Deathworlders fought like demons. The Terrans moved with machine-like precision, coordinating strikes that crippled enemy formations. The core fleets deployed shield generators that blunted the Herald assault just enough for counterstrikes to land. But the Herald adapted. For every ship destroyed, two more shifted configuration, rewriting themselves mid-battle, birthing new weapons. Kale knew this would not be a battle of attrition. This had to end with the death of every Herald ship, or the death of the galaxy. "Commander Rin." Kale barked into comms. "Tell me you have something worse than Erebus Protocol." Rin's reply was cold, almost sorrowful. "We do. Thanatos override. But if we use it, there may not be a Perseus expanse left when we're done." Kale didn't hesitate. "Do it. Better we burn the stars than let them take the galaxy." Across the Terran fleet, a single code flashed, an ancient failsafe. One by one, massive, spear-like devices were launched from their battleships, glowing with terrible energy. Thanatos was not a weapon in the traditional sense. It was a chain reaction, a controlled implosion of spacetime itself. Kale watched the countdown with something close to awe. "All fleets, fall back behind the Terran perimeter. Now." The retreat was chaos, but somehow, impossibly, they managed it. The Herald ships, sensing the threat, surged forward, straight into the kill zone. And then the stars exploded. Reality twisted. Space folded inward, dragging the Herald fleet into a collapsing singularity. Their black hulls screamed in frequencies that made every living creature aboard the Allied fleet's ships clutch their ears in pain. One by one, the Herald were ripped apart, not by weapons, but by the universe itself turning against them. When the light cleared, nothing remained but drifting dust and the faint echo of those terrible voices. Hours later, silence reigned. The Perseus expanse was gone, reduced to a shimmering scar in space. The galaxy's largest battle had ended, and for the first time in months, the Oblivion Spear was nowhere to be found. Kale stood on the bridge, staring at the quiet stars. "Is it over?" Jara asked softly. Rin appeared on the hololink, his face pale but resolute. "For now. But something tells me we haven't seen the last of them. Whatever the Herald were, they won't stop until either they're gone, or we are." Kale nodded slowly. "Then we'll be ready. The galaxy fought as one today. Maybe that was their gift to us." He turned back to the stars, his expression grim but proud. "Let them come," he said quietly. "The next time they find us, we won't just be waiting. We'll be hunting." And for the first time since the war began, the galaxy dared to hope.